Hello friends, my name is Dev. I welcome you all in this digital platform of integrated edu systems. Today we are here to discuss about some of the recent issues that has been across the country, and that particular news is prevention of money laundering. And regarding to that, Supreme Court's recent ruling has again brought this particular law again in the news. So, in this session we will try to understand every nitty and gritty of this particular act, as well as what are the important things and provisions that has to be kept in mind while preparing the civil services examination. So, with this we will start today's session, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. As we have discussed that this has been in the news because of the 3 judgments of the Supreme Court recently authored a judgment regarding the provisions of Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. So, here for the civil services examination, what can be a very important here? If we see, the very first significance is for the general studies paper 2, where the governance administrations are the subtopics, or these are the aspects which need to be studied. And the second important of this particular act is going for the internal security, that is part of the GS paper 3 in the civil services examination, as well as the obviously in the prelims examination the questions can be come from this particular act. So, if we look or try to delve into or navigate into the prelims facts regarding this particular act, is the first, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act that came into the year 2002, and in the various times it amended recently in the 2019, and since the enactment of this particular act is from the 17 Jan 2003, but the bill was introduced in the parliament for the proposal of this particular act was in the 2002, that is why is the year is the 2002. And the second is the operation of this particular bill is from the since 1st July 2005. So, these may be the questions, or these need to be memorized for the preparation. And third important point is concerned body for this particular act is the Ministry of Finance, and enforcing agency, the agency which empowered through this particular act is the Enforcement Directorate or ED. So, this is very important. Nowadays ED is in the news very much. So, that is why the EDs, very existence of EDs and the empowerment of ED is because of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. While ED is the body that is existed before that, the introduction of ED or the formation of ED is prior to this particular law, but the EDs is empowered, or the authorities of ED is now enhanced because of this particular Pmla Act 2002. And the particularly, if we talk about the objective of this particular law, is that to prevent illicit money, means illegal money, and to confiscate or seize that money and undertake the investigation or search operations of the issues connected with the money laundering. So, these 3 pillars of, or we can say the objective of this particular law. So, these all about the prelims. Now, if we talk about the mains perspective of this particular law, first of all we need to understand what is money laundering. The very definition of money laundering, a generic definition, we can say that process of making illegally gained proceeds or dirty money appears legal. Very simple definition is that the any proceeds, any financial proceeds or any income or any money that is generated by means of any illegal or any inappropriate means, then it is known as the illegal money or illegally gained proceeds. And if that particular illegal money is trying to be claimed as legal money, is something process of money laundering. So, very simple and very easy, and it's need to be understood very well. So, that is money laundering. And second, the illicit origin, the concealing of origin or the source of that particular money is disguised or concealed. So, this is one of the character of this money laundering process. And third, the actual source, as we have talked, that the actual source of that particular money is through the illegal means like drug trafficking, like corruption, like embezzlement, or like extortions. These are the means or sources of these illegal gain proceeds. And now, what are the process of money laundering? This is important. How and through which processes that money, illegal money, is claimed to be illegal. So, very first thing is the placement. Whenever that extorted or illegal gain proceeds, the very first process to money laundering is the placement, that is placing in the financial system. Financial system means placing in the banks, depositing in the banks or any financial institutions. And the second, that particular process is known as the placement. The next very process is the layering. In that process, transferring any account when that particular illegal money placed into the financial institutions like bank or any cooperative banks or scheduled commercial banks, and thereafter that particular money is transferred to the another account holders or any financial entity, maybe that is in the offshore in the other countries as well. So, that particular process is known as the layering of that money. And third is the integration, in which that is the last process. After transferring the money from one bank to another bank's account or any foreign entities or any offshore financial institutions or organization, maybe that may be the bank or any investment in the foreign, and that particular when that is sent to or that is transferred to that financial institutions in a process of layering. Thereafter, the third process of money laundering is the integration, in which generally purchase of luxury asset, any house, any car or anything, any apartment, or investment in any financial security. So, these are the three important processes, or these are the processes by which the money laundering is undertaken. So, these are the fundamentals of money laundering. Okay. So, next if we see the Money Laundering Act 2002, that is in India, Pmla 2002, what are the silent or salient provisions or important features? Let us understand every important features. The first important feature is punishment for the money laundering. Since money laundering is a violation of our constitutional and legal regime in country, therefore, the punishment of the money laundering is mentioned, that is the feature of this Pmla Act 2002. The punishment under violating this act, or in a case of money laundering, if we say, then the jail term is 3 to 7 years, but that is again extended up to 10 years. This is very important in case of narcotics, drugs or drug trafficking like cases. So, the maximum imprisonment can be 10 years as well as plus fine. So, these are the first provision, and the second is attachment of tainted asset. Tainted asset means illegal asset, or which is not legal or which is claimed to be a illegal asset. In that condition, the proceed of crime or that tainted asset or money will be attached or seized for the provisionally period of 180 days. This is important feature. Such orders to be confirmed by the adjudicating authority. This is important, that adjudicating authority will be there, and that particular adjudicating authority will confirm the seizing or attachment of the asset which are supposed to be out of the money laundering. And the third important is adjudicating authority. Now, what is adjudicating authority? When a central government appoint a authority guided by principle of natural justice and regulates on that particular authority will be autonomous, means regulating. This body will be a authority or autonomous, and it will be appointed by the central government like finance ministry, and appointing authority and guided by the principle of natural justice like unbiased or unbiasedness. Then thereafter the fair hearing. These are the principle of natural justice. And the fourth important is burden of proof. Now, burden of proof in a simple legal course or legal action, we see that accused has to be proved. If we talk about the simply in India's or in the judiciary's cardinal principle of judiciary, in that case we know that a guilty or any person is presumed to be a innocent till guilty or guilt of whatever he is proven. So, that is the cardinal principle of judiciary, but in this particular under this act the burden of proof is reversed, that is reversed. This is important. So, here the accused has to prove the legitimacy of alleged proceeds. It is not the enforcement authority or ED. Those going to prove that that particular proceed is because of money laundering concerned to that particular person or alleged person, but here the accused has to prove that legitimacy of that alleged proceed. So, this is what the reversing of burden of proof. So, very important. And the next is appellate tribunal. In case of adjudicating authority whatsoever award that attachment or that particular proceeds regarding that, then the person or aggrieved person or accused person can go to the higher appellate tribunal, that is under this provision of act, and to hear appeal against the order of adjudicating authority. So, this is again that window of appellate or appealing is also provided here. And the next is a special court. Apart from that, we can see that a special court means court of session or session court in the district levels, or that is also known as a criminal court. That court of session to be a special court after consulting Chief Justice of concerned High Court under section 43 of this act, prevention of money laundering, for hearing section 4 category of offences. These are the category of offences, those are extreme in the nature. So, in that particular cases the special court will be assigned to hearing or trial of the particular case, and that court will be the court of session, and that is central government will, with the consultation of Chief Justice of that particular High Court, thereafter only that special court will be constituted. And the last important provision of this act is that Financial Intelligence Unit India or FIUIND. So, this is the autonomous agency particularly for the purpose of receiving, processing, analyzing and sharing informations related to suspected transactions. Those are supposed to a money laundering transactions or money laundering processes, and reports to Economic Intelligence Council headed by Prime Minister only, and Finance Minister, and to pursue global efforts against money laundering. So, this is the body which is assigned with the so many of the tasks, particularly processing, analyzing, sharing, investigating and of the information of the suspected assets. Thereafter, that is to the authority of that unit is to report to the Finance Minister, as well as also to coordinate with the international organizations regarding prevention of money laundering. So, this is the all about the salient features of this particular act. Now, next if we see the recently as we have talked earlier, that recently 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court authored and observed some of the regarding to the some of the sections of this particular act, and which has been challenged. In this regard, we see that what are the recent observations which are important for the examination point of view, and that's why we'll talk about here. The first is section 3 that was challenged, and that is section 3 actually offense of money laundering, means that is about the what can be the money laundering or what amounts to be a money laundering. So, section 3 talk about the money laundering or offense of money laundering. Now, in that particular section regarding that, Supreme Court observed that and added that generating black money means simply black money. If we try to understand if in the simple terms, then we can say the black money is the money which is non-taxed money, or that is the money which is undeclared its legitimacy. So, simply that is known as the black money. If the process of generating black money is undertaken, that is also amounts to be a money laundering. So, this is something a new dimension or new aspects added by the Honorable Supreme Court of the India. So, that is the important observation regarding the 3-bench judge recent judgment. And the second is section 5 and 8 subsection 4. This is regarding to the ED's discretionary power to attach assets of the accused, though that is about the attachment of the assets, that illegally proceed assets, and Supreme Court observed that the attachment of seize and as well as seizing of the assets is completely valid, or that is upheld by the Supreme Court. The next section 17 of this act, where the provision is ED authorized to enter and search suspected sites or property without judicial permission. So, in general judicial terms or general judicial course, any investigating agency has to take the permission of judiciary, and thereafter only they can undertake or conduct the investigation or such operations. But in this case of money laundering, Enforcement Directorate has authorized to search and enter to the any suspected site even without judicial permission. Very important and empowering provisions for the Enforcement Directorate, and that is upheld by the Supreme Court. And the next section is 19. ED powers to make arrest. Enforcement Directorate can arrest a person who is suspected for the money laundering case. So, in that case, ED can arrest directly, and that is in the view of Supreme Court is constitutional. Okay. The next is section 24. Accused is presumed to be a guilty until he disapproves it. So, this is burden of proof or reversal burden of proof. So, accused is presumed to be guilty until he disapproves it that he is not involved in the money laundering case. So, in that case he will be presumed to be guilty. So, it is very important that Supreme Court again upheld that particular section's provision. And next is section 45. Section 45 states that deal with the bail conditions. Since there are some stringent bail conditions regarding in the case of money laundering. So, in that case many of the petitioners, they have stated that and they allege that it violates the article 14 and 21 of the fundamental right. But again Supreme Court stated and observed that it does not violate the article 14 right, that is equality before law, as well as 21 life that is right for the liberty and life. So, again that is observed well and upheld by the Supreme Court. And the last important section regarding which Supreme Court has observed, that is section 50 of this act, where proceedings or money and inquiry summons to give evidence, means proceedings and inquiry. If any inquiry is to be conducted by the ED, then in that case summons to give evidence means the ED will only summons and they can proceed the inquiry. Where petitioners had challenged that violate the article fundamental rights, article 23, that is regarding no self incrimination, means a person or accused cannot be a witness for his or herself. So in that case, no violation of 23 according to the Supreme Court, and not a, that is because that is, and the Supreme Court also added that that is not the criminal investigation, and ED officers are not a police. I mean ED officials are not a police. So this was the observation. This was the observation of the Honorable Supreme Court regarding the some of the key provisions of the EDs. Those have been in the news for the some controversies as well as some overarching powers of the ED. So that was challenged in the Honorable Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court rightly rejected out that these all provisions are important for the Money Laundering Act to be successful, to be effective. So these are all about the recent judgments and their observation. Now Supreme Court 3 judge bench again highlight some of the issues in this while authoring this judgment regarding provisions of PMLA 2002 Act. And the first is supplying enforcement case information report copy to accused is not necessary. Here the is not necessary means supplying enforcement case information report ECIR, whenever this is ECIR is a report, information report like FIR, but it is not similar to the FIR. This is whenever any case under the ED, under the aegis of ED is reported, then that particular money laundering case is reported as the enforcement case information report. And since that is the some of the petitioners have they have asked that that particular report copy is should be provided while arresting anybody or any accused person, but Supreme Court said that that is not is equal to the FIR. So that's why person is just to be informed that about the reason, but not a copy is required to be shown or that is to be submitted to the particular person. So that is about the that is not necessary to give the copy of to the that accused person. And the next is only disclosure of reasons during arrest is not enough, and Supreme Court said that only disclosure of reasons means just accounting a reason is more than enough while making arrest. Okay, the next, because again the Supreme Court said that that is sufficient compliance of the mandate of Article 2021, that in the that particular fundamental rights article we know that a person should be informed well about the reason of why he or she is going under to the arrest or being undertaken by the ED's official. So that is about the Article 22 of the fundamental right, but again that is sufficient enough to meet the mandate of Article 22, that accounting a reason is more than enough, not that necessary to give or present the copy of the that ECIR report. And the again ECIR is not equal to the FIR, this is important. And the now next is even ED manual is not to be published. So again going beyond, Supreme Court also stated that ED manual is something and not a subjected to be published. And the next is ECIR, I mean that enforcement case information report is an internal document of ED. This is again important point. The next is, since some offences are non-cognizable or minor, yet it's matter of legislative policy, and wisdom of Parliament perceived that cumulative effect of proceeds of crime likely to pose threat to economic stability, sovereignty and integrity of nation. So, the crux of this point of the Supreme Court is that there may be the offences of money laundering of the various degree or intensity, but there may be the charges as well as that particular cases can be handled by the ED maybe in the different way. That is because according to the that is the something policy making or that degree of nature of the crime is under the legislative domain. So, Parliament, it is the Parliament who is authorized and vested with the power to make the amendments and changes regarding to the this particular act. It is not the Supreme Court. So, that is why Supreme Court has observed that because money laundering case is something that may pose a threat to the sovereignty, integrity of the nation, and that is why this is completely vested on the wisdom of our Parliament to form and classify the offences under the money laundering, whether it is non-cognizable or cognizable. The seeming and the observing that particular degree of money laundering case is something vested on the, this is the completely a legislative matter. The next is, hence classification of offence means that is the crux of this particular observation of the Supreme Court, that particular classification of offence of money laundering is a matter of legislative policy, it is not the matter of Supreme Court. So, Supreme Court is not vested, or any court of law in country is not supposed to talk about the offences and that classification of offences, rather it is a matter of legislation. And then next and last observation of Supreme Court is that stringent condition for bail is legal, that is why it is not arbitrary, because it can threat to the stability, sovereignty and integrity of nation. So, these are the observations made by the Honorable Supreme Court in recent judgment. Now, if we look or if we try to find what are the international or global initiatives regarding prevention of money laundering, then we many a times hear about the Financial Action Task Force. So, this FATF is very important, and we try to understand some fundamental about this particular organization. This is the intergovernmental organization that began in the 1989, and that was the initiative at that time of the G7 group of 7, particularly the developed countries. And today there is about 39 members, not 66, 39 members, parties, nations and organizations are there, and sentinels of anti-money laundering regime. This is again known as the watchdog or sentinel of the anti-money laundering regime, and to curb the money laundering, that it means, and mutual evaluation or peer review model is the working style of this particular organization, that every nation or member an organization of this particular FATF are supposed to undertake or conduct the peer review, so that they can ensure the money laundering free world. And the next is, since 2000, that is maintaining FATF blacklisting, that is started where call for action is needed. So, now there are two countries, Iran and North Korea are the two countries, those are in the blacklist. That is, this regime is started, this mechanism is started since 2000. And grey list, where are more than 20 countries, other monitored jurisdictions, I mean these are the countries, those are under scanner of FATF, like some of the known countries, Philippines, thereafter our neighbor Myanmar, Turkey again, and we have seen the Pakistan's place or stand in the grey list is supposed to be revised. So maybe in the near future Pakistan will be removed from this grey list. So these are the grey list and countries, the major countries. In 2001 mandate, a new that dimension is added in this particular FATF regime, that is to expand it for the inclusion of terrorist financing is again supposed to be money laundering. So terrorist financing is again very serious concern for the world, and that's why this is again included in this regime. And the next is motivated parties to supposed to roll out the regulatory mechanisms that compliant with FATF. So that's why India roll out the Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. So these are the, this is the one of the effect of the FATF, that country like India strive for the money laundering free regimes in the nation, and that's why country envisioned the rollout of PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. So this is about the global initiatives and its effect on the our country as well. Now, impact of money laundering, if we try to understand that what may be the issue because of this money laundering. So that is very important, that societal. The societal, what can be the impact in the society? It's provide a impetus to criminal activities like terrorism, extortion, or drug trafficking. So this can be a issue that will aid a more misery or menace to the criminal activities because of the money laundering, because these terrorism or extortions where finance is the backbone. So if these kind of illegal or the law and order issues or extreme cases are undertaken, then there will be the presence or having money for undertaking or conducting these crimes will be very easy, or that may even become a widespread phenomena. So that is the issue. And the second is criminal organizations may weaken social fabric. So there may be state or non-state actors, if we see in the internal security, and they can sponsor that kind of activities like communal activities, radicalism like activities, or terrorism or Naxalism. That can be what create a fragmenting of the society. So this can pose a threat to the social fabric of the country. And third is degrading collective ethical standards. So what we have believed, like that ethical standards, that living in the harmony, living with the unity, with the fraternity, these ethical standards can be degraded because of the money laundering led the factionist groups or the society that may divided or fragmented because of these radical activities. So that is the societal impact. And the next impact can be, that is the decay of democratic institution of the society. So there will be the democratic institution of society, as we are the civilized society, and where every person or every stakeholder is important, and their say and their overall consensus is something a society's health indicator like works. No, when democratic society where the people having a consensus regarding any particular issue is very important, and that is supposed to be a healthy practice for the any civilized society. So in that case, when money laundered people or that group came in, they may fragment a society, and they may, according to their vested interest, they can polarize the society, and that may degrade ultimately to the democratic institution of the society. So that is the societal impact. Now economic concern, if you see about the money laundering, then that is first these can be presented in form of flowchart, like organized crime can infiltrate financial institution. Like organized crime, the money that is generated out of that particular illegal proceeds or illegal activity, that can be deposited in the bank. So without any hard working, they will supposed to, or they if they deposited that money in the financial institution like bank, and if they came in or entered into the bank, then acquire control of the large sector of the economy through investments. That may the future or probable issue because of the entering or infiltrating the financial institutions. So through the investment, they can have a large share of that particular large sector, and that can play a monopoly, or they can even run according to their whim and their decisions. So that is the issue. And the erode nation's economy, next is the erode nation's economy by changing demand for the cash. So if money laundered money is there, and that can, the two issue, whether high circulation of cash can be one of the thing, or maybe they can completely suck out entire cash from the economy. So that again the issue of changing demand for the cash may arise or concern for any country. And the next is making interest and exchange rates more volatile. So again that will impact the import and export, as well as that import and export, if that is affected, then obviously that will also affect the currency exchange rate of the country. So that may be a volatile situation. And the causing high inflation, if money is more, if money, the more money is chasing the less number of goods or less amount of good, then in that case inflation will be obvious thing to happen. And the next, it encourages tax that is evasion culture. So people will try to, again that the black money culture will develop, or that may be the future repercussion because of this money laundering case, that people will try to avoid their duty for the tax or duty to submit their taxes. And ultimately the discourage foreign investors, this may be the final issue, because if return and productivity, and if that economy of that particular country is very much volatile, then obviously no foreign investors or foreign company will wish to come in that particular country. So again that will encourage the FDI or FAI. That political concerns regarding the black that money laundering is the niche of kickback and corruption may prevail. So obviously they will try to hijack the entire governance system or good governance system because of the kickbacks or bribes, or they may what prevail, or they may give encourage to what corruptions. So something like through bribe they can, for their own favor, they can may approach to any minister or any politician. Those are policy makers. So that is ultimately what harm to the nation's interest. And the very important thing or last about this political aspect of the money laundering case is the policy distortion, or that is because due to the inaccurate picture of the field or due to measurement error, that is what, and ill allocation of region can be the issue, because if money is circulated illegally, that is entered into the financial or in the economy through the undeclared or unaccounted means, that is money laundering. So if that comes, then we will not get the actual picture of our economy. And since measures, reports as well as surveys are important for any policy to be implemented or for that success, then in that case the government will end up the ill allocation or misallocation of the resources accordingly. So these are the impact of money laundering in the all three dimension: societal, economic as well as political. Now what could be the way ahead? What should be the recommendation and what should be the way forward? The very first thing is that money laundering case is the transnational character. This is the transboundary issue. So it is not confined to the particular country or any state only. In present era of the globalization, this is again one of the spillover effect of the globalization, we can say the dark side of that globalization. And since that this is the transnational character, of the offense, and that's why need a global collaboration and coordination. Means global effort is important to completely eradicate the menace of money laundering. And the next is, in Indian context, more decentralized the law would be the better reach it will have. This is important, that in India that we have discussed about or discussing about the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, that is the act that is completely a centralized act. EDs have all authority right from investigating or identifying the suspected, as well as proceeding, trial. These all entire regime of this process or that particular anti-money laundering regime is centralized completely, because ED works under the Finance Ministry and Act is devised and designed by the Parliament. So, since money laundering is something which is prevalent across the country, so every region may have some different issues of the money laundering or different nature of money laundering. In that case, states should be, or the region should be also authorized with that tools like ED in the that is working for the center. So, state should also authorize with the combating the money laundering issues, or maybe in the near future with the strong coordination or some sense of responsibility to the states will be also assigned. So, decentralized law is very important for the better reach or better effectiveness. And the third is the 3-judge bench ruling empowers ED enormously. As we have seen that in some sections where entire sections are upheld by the Supreme Court judgments. So, naturally that will empower or enhance the power of or authority of the Enforcement Directorate. So, this is again will be some future more cases of EDs where effectively ED may regulate or monitor that cases, or that can effectually undertake the ED's responsibility. Then fourth is objective of the ED should be in consonance with the national interest rather than vested political vendetta. So, this is important, that sometimes we have seen that in one authored of the Supreme Court judgment, where one of the judge observed that regarding to the Central Bureau of Investigation, that Central Bureau of Investigation is something a caged parrot who speaks on the command of master. So, that actually the reflection of that CBI, how CBI is working in country, and nature or character of function, that is completely centralized in the whims and wishes of the central government. Sometimes that is also observed by our Honorable Supreme Courts or Court of the Law in this country. So, that is something EDs also sometimes appear to be or perceived as the caged parrot. So, that should not be the reality, and in that view ED must work in the consonance with the national interest rather vested political vendetta. Okay. And next way forward is that shunning central state tussle. This is very important, that not only in this particular act or prevention of money laundering case or in that talk or discussion, but central state tussle is something ultimately hampers the development and growth of the country. Ultimately sufferer will be the common citizen or the national interest. That is why that is shunning or removing the central state tussle for the interest of national or nation is very important, and again that is again important for the effective enforcement of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. And second last is infusing a sense of watchfulness among people. So, people can they should be careful and watchful about the surrounding where any money laundering activity if that is taking place, then they should first come up with and inform to the authorities to look after that particular suspected activity. So, again people's role, and people are again they are the stakeholders, and for the success to take place this particular PMLA Act, then infusing a sense of watchfulness is very important. And last but not the least, combating on war footing, that money laundering case is something is not confined to any particular region, that is prevalent across the globe in present time, and that is why that is to be combat at war footing in the globally, nationally and locally scale. So, this is something very important and way forward for the money laundering. And with this we wind up today's session, that is on the Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002, and with the next session we will come up with some very important points and discussions, and for that matter we will meet in the next time. Thank you for being with me.